Kiranam, it's live now.
Okay, can I start?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Good evening. It's a pleasure to have Dr. Gayatri Deepak with me today. Gayatri has about 3 decades of experience in education, both in India and overseas. She is the founder and director of Chetna and an advisor to top schools, including Chettinad Sarvaloka Education International School. She is passionate about guiding schools to transform into learning spaces that create excellence through individual and social change. Very nice to have you with us, Dr. Gayatri.
Delighted to be here, Mrs. Kiran.
Our world is very different today. The pandemic has impacted everyone like never before. It has changed our routines, the way we live, the way we work, and even the way we communicate. Earlier, we were hoping that this period would end soon, but now we are realizing that this can go on for much longer, and many of us are feeling overwhelmed, even as we are trying to adapt to the new normal. The online teaching and learning is one such adaptation in the school space. We've been hearing from the parents that online teaching and learning scenario has caused a lot of stress in the home front. Gayatri, what do you perceive as some of the challenges faced by the parents and how can we address their issues?
Indeed, Kiran, these are very unprecedented times. You come with about 2 decades in education and more. You've been heading international schools for more than 12 years. I'm sure in your experience, you've never seen something like this. Like all of us, we're all in the same boat right now. The lockdown has definitely brought about some big challenges. Many parents are now juggling several responsibilities. They have to supervise their children while they do schoolwork or attend to online classes, even be their playmates. And all this while they're working from their home front, taking care of their chores at home, as well as they have deadlines to meet with their own work assignments. Some may have families with elders to take care of or sick people to take care of. So it's really a lot on their plate. I think schools, first of all, should empathize with what parents are going through. Teachers must communicate clearly what's expected of parents in terms of the time they need to spend and exactly what they need to do with the child for an assignment. Maybe they can have a review meeting with parents once in 2 weeks. This is particularly for small children to discuss the child's learning pattern and any doubts that the parents may have can be cleared in such meetings. Information to parents through online meetings or orientation programs must be done on the kind of shift that's happening to make learners more responsible for their own learning. The why and the how of it must be explained to parents by the school. Parents also from their side can help themselves and become more relaxed about all this if they get familiar with all the apps that the school is using, the programs that the school is using. Yes, they could always ask friends or get onto YouTube themselves and find out how a particular thing works. And definitely, if they set a space in their house for the child to work on a day-to-day basis, and this will kind of establish structure and routine for the school for the child, and this itself does calm the child down. I think that will also help parents a lot. Ultimately, I think from the parent side, to help themselves also, they must learn to trust the techniques that the school is using. Teachers are doing a lot of research and trying to do their best for the children at this time. So I think that mutual trust between the school and the parent is required. But Kiran, what are your thoughts? What are your recommendations for schools to help parents navigate these difficult times?
Gayatri, my recommendations would be for schools to be flexible and allow for certain accommodations wherever necessary and possible. For example, if a child is consistently late to class or is not submitting assignments, do not pull up the child. Instead, have a word with the child privately to find out what the issue is and help the child work around it. Teachers should practice differentiation to suit the need of every child, keeping the learning objectives in mind. Differentiation could be in assignments, it could be in timelines, it could be in instructions, or even in expectations. Parents and teachers must be open in their communication to each other. It's very important to build trust and to understand that everyone is doing their best to help the child learn well. Teachers could set a specific time in the week for a one-to-one online meeting with the parents. That will be very helpful. Again, using parent volunteers, schools could form support groups to help parents get familiar with the process and the technology being used in the classroom. This will help parents who are not yet tech savvy. Teachers should focus on creating and setting healthy routines by planning a holistic curriculum and a schedule that balances academics and co-curricular activities. There are ongoing debates and discussions in all forums about what is the right amount of time that children can spend online. Gayatri, what do you think is the ideal duration for online classes?
Before we go into the time, let's look at learning as a whole. Learning is done best when it is a multisensorial activity. Children learn best when they observe, they touch, they feel, they explore, they interact with the environment. So one important aspect of learning is also social development, especially for young children, weaning them away from home and getting them to interact with peers and other adults in a safe environment is what schooling is all about. So the schools provide this opportunity for them to meet other children, manipulate objects, look at the environment, pick up things from there, learn in a very natural way, and interact with adults also. This aspect is very hard to incorporate for this age group in an online mode of learning. Also, we should remember that preschool and primary school kids have very short attention spans. Their eyes are not ready for staring at the screen for long hours. So we have to also consider that today's children in today's nuclear families are indeed actually handling devices to a much larger extent than ever before. So even toddlers of about 2 years old, they play games, they watch videos on a cell phone. So exposure to gadgets and screen time is very high at a young age as well. And this is not passive screen time like watching TV. They are using apps on phones and responding to online games, songs, dances, and other programs on a phone or a tablet. So they are interacting with it. But instead of allowing such unplanned screen time, young children can be kept engaged in meaningful interactions through online lessons with their own teacher, maybe for about 1 hour a day maximum for preschoolers, perhaps a couple of hours or so for primary school in a split way. So this would be far more beneficial than unplanned screen time. So when teachers are planning their lessons, they should try and build in opportunities for the child to move and work with things and materials that they do have at home to make the learning much more interesting for them. Of course, at a young age, a parental supervision is a must. Parents must make sure that the child is not distracted during the class time by pets or any other interruptions that might happen. So I think all these points are very important to consider as well, apart from just screen time.
Very well said, Gayatri. Teachers can make online learning sessions as enriching as possible under the present circumstances. What is important is that teachers should include active learning methods where there is not just listening, but also observation, movement, thinking, and discussions while absorbing the content. For example, math concepts can be taught beautifully through kinesthetic movements. During a session on shapes, children can be asked to run and bring 5 objects that are square in shape. Or in a language class, they can walk around in their rooms and bring objects of a color called by the teacher. In this way, children will pick up learning concepts and find it very interesting. If the lesson is on plants, again, for example, the teacher can give a break for 2 or 3 minutes and ask the children to go out to the gardens or balconies to observe the plants in their surroundings and share their observation with the class. Here, each child will bring his or her observation from a different environment and share it with the class. The teacher and the children can together build the learning, which is such a powerful approach. It's important that some physical wellness is built into the class time. After every 15 minutes or so, the teacher can ask the children to do some neck shoulder stretches or eye exercises.
Right. Nice examples, Kiran. This is very important part of schooling, especially in our currently restrictive times that we're going through. I would like to add that expecting even older children to continuously engage in about 5 to 6 hours of academic work on screen during these times is really unrealistic and unproductive. Trying to replicate actual classroom learning in an online manner is very unhealthy for children at a time when all other normal physical activities, sports, and even free playtime have been curbed. So learning now should not just be content based to cover the syllabus, but should actually be conceptual and skills based. Parents and schools also must not fail to educate children on cyber safety. This is very, very important. A school should actually plan the amount of the amount of screen time for all age groups carefully and use a blend of synchronous and asynchronous work. So when I say asynchronous, we mean time which is spent away from the screen by themselves doing activities which the teacher has given them to complete during that day or during a week's time. When we say synchronous, this is the online screen time which they're spending along with their peers and their teacher. So this is what we mean, that we need to have a good balance of both during the day. So again, I think schools should also remember to keep their focus on socio-emotional learning programs like storytelling, circle time activities for young children, mindfulness activities for the older kids, some yoga, some breathing exercises to make them aware of their emotions and to express it in a safe, acceptable manner. I think all these are very, very important to keep all this going. I think it also helps the child then to look forward to this online school day as well. All these are extremely important steps which the school must consider and implement. But what are your thoughts, children, on how children don't lose out on co-curricular activities also during this time?
Gayatri, it's true that we cannot replicate the experience of co-curricular activities during the online teaching period, but we can bring in activities that do not require specific infrastructure. For example, for theater classes, the facilitator can focus on working on voice modulation through storytelling or have script writing sessions with the children. The music teacher can record their videos and send it to the students for practice. The PE teacher can create a physical education program where the children can come and children can do some simple exercises at home. Art and craft is one area where schools can do a lot. There are so many online tools to help children learn art, both in its traditional form as well as in more contemporary form like animation or digital art. Gayatri, what about assessments? As educators, we know that formal assessments or tests are not the only ways to measure a child's learning. However, for parents, that can be very important. I'm sure parents would want to know how schools can assess students to make sure they have learned. Can you share a few points on this?
Kiran, as you know, in school settings, we have both formative as well as summative assessments. Now, formative assessments happen as children are engaged in their learning. So it's assessment for learning. It gives feedback to the teachers, right? Summative is what we do at the end of a unit. So when the students are online, students do respond to the teacher's oral questions or they perform short tasks that the teacher sets. The teacher can also give quickly feedback in the online mode. There are good tools available for this. And some teachers also ask students to write answers in the chat box, or there's a jam board which they use. Or children just respond in their notebooks. They show their notebooks to the camera so the teacher can actually see what the child has written. Teachers can also give multiple choice quiz or short objective type tests on Google Classrooms or learning management systems that the school is using. In the case of objective short tests, the results are also instantaneous, and this allows for self-correction. And children also then overcome misconceptions immediately. As far as summative assessments are concerned, yes, you could also give full-fledged assignments which require long answers. Longer term projects can be given, and these can be assessed using rubrics. Performance-based assessments can be given. So all this can be done at the child's pace and uploaded for this teachers to check and give feedback, and to also mark them formally for a summative end of unit assessment. It's all possible. It's pretty good. Can
Yeah.
be done.
A lot of tools there, and and that way assessments can also become more varied and interesting for children. Gayatri, what do you think parents can do to support their children's school during this time and create a beneficial learning experience for the child?
It's a very important, valid question that you've raised, Kiran. One important point I would like to get across to parents is this: they must keep in touch with the school regularly and connect with the school when they're asked to. I would request parents not to skip any meetings or programs that your child's school organizes. At least one of the parents must attend it. Please give it the same importance that you would to your own office meetings. Please respond to emails and communication from the school when they ask you to. You could also be a contributing member to the larger school community. Parents who are tech savvy could volunteer, they could help others who might need some extra guidance. If you get any information, this is an important point. If you get any information from another parent, either through a WhatsApp group or some other social media, please double check with the school, with the authorized personnel appointed for this purpose in the school. Give them a little time to just inquire and get back to the query that you've raised. All of us are going through difficult times, and so I think it's important that we all maintain our calm and patience right now. Most importantly, I would like to emphasize that we as parents have to be very, very careful about saying anything negative about the school or the teacher in your child's presence. It's especially important now more than ever before, because the child is not going to school daily, and the parents' words might go down just too strongly for them. To rectify that later. And Kiran, what would be your request to the parent community when it comes to supporting the school?
Yeah. As you said, Gayatri, it is important for parents to follow the guidelines set up by the school, maintain a dialogue with the school on how the online learning is working for their child. The changed atmosphere is impacting all of us in different ways. As adults, we are able to express the challenges and constraints that the situation has thrown at us. But for young children, this can be very difficult. So it's important that parents should keep talking to the children and encourage them to express themselves, their feelings, what they're going through, and be very patient with them. As far as learning is concerned, it is important that parents allow their children to work independently. Please don't start instructing the child on how to work, but encourage them to work on their own. Also, since parents are present during the online classes, they should not compare their child with other children or pass judgments. Each child has a unique learning journey, and we must respect it. Gayatri, I would encourage parents to write a small note of appreciation to the teachers for their efforts. It can be very helpful in keeping them motivated. And this will also help the children appreciate the work of the teacher and teach them the value of gratitude. Gayatri, most schools have been working online for several weeks now, and we are looking forward to a time when schools can reopen and children can go back to school physically. How should schools structure the school day when they reopen?
Again, I'm sure we're all looking forward to when we can reopen.
Absolutely.
When it is safe enough, We will be looking at that, I'm sure. But meanwhile, schools should consider several strategies which can be implemented actually simultaneously. They can bring in a hybrid school week, meaning that students of every grade level come to school only on some days of the week, and that too for specific subjects or experiences that they can't really get at home, for like working in a chemistry lab, for instance. Schools can also simultaneously, while they're doing the hybrid school week, bring in staggered timings with students from different grades attending school on the same day, but they come in at different times and for fewer hours, like we said. The school could also split the class into smaller sections and have them attend school on the same days. Or they can have one section of the grade come to school while another works from home for a week and then switch the next week. So I mean, even if a class size is normally 30, to make that even smaller. This is what I mean. And Kiran, what are your thoughts on this?
Hybrid school week is a great idea, Gayatri. I have 3 points to make. Blended learning, which is a combination of learning through technology and traditional face-to-face teaching, is here to stay. Teachers, students, and parents have now experienced the power of technology in learning. So therefore, all of them should equip themselves with the skills, infrastructure, and technology to facilitate blended learning. This pandemic has shown us that it is life skills that can get us through any difficult situation. So therefore, schools should focus on building life skills such as adaptability, resilience, communication skills, fortitude, the ability to solve problems, to stay positive in the face of difficulty, etc. The last and the most important point is to strengthen the psychological safety of the students. When they come back to school after dealing with the situation, with some of them having been impacted in multiple ways, it is important that schools have the adequate resources and measures to take care of the learning gaps and the emotional needs of the children. Gayatri, to sum up, what are your recommendations going forward?
Right. First of all, I'd like to say that let's not forget that we are in the midst of a pandemic. We are facing many new challenges in life. All of us are. So empathy for one another is a must to get us all through this. Let's seek to be humane and not engage in any blame game. Let's be kind to ourselves as parents, as educators, and to our children. We're all learning to adapt to this evolving and changing situation, especially in the space of education. Let's remember that we need to just keep young minds engaged in learning. Detaching for such extended periods of time from their normal school routines, staying indoors constantly, is in itself very stressful for children. Let's be grateful for the way in which our youngsters have by and large cooperated during these very strange times that we're going through. Most of all, let's be grateful and kind to our teachers who are having to literally change their entire work life overnight and are struggling to balance their home life too, like all of us.
Sure.
So this is something I would really like to emphasize.
Yeah, so through the discussion, empathy has come on top, but the other takeaways are to focus on conceptual understanding, developing learning and life skills in our children, open communication between the school and the parents, creative solutions and safety measures as we reopen. So there is a lot to think about and plan as we wait to see what unfolds for us in the months to come. But it is obvious that every stakeholder has a critical role to play in ensuring that learning continues unhindered by the situation. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, Dr. Gayatri, for your time and deep insights.
Thank you.
We will be elaborating on this topic in greater detail and uploading it as short videos in our school's website and Facebook page very soon. Please write to us if you have any queries. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you.